Hi there, my name is Michelle Grasick. I'm an acupuncturist and the host of the Acupuncture Marketing School podcast. And today we'll be talking about tips for getting more reviews so that you can get more patients. And before we dive in, I'd like to thank the American Acupuncture Council for the opportunity to be here with you today. All right, let's get into the slides. Okay, I wanted to talk a little bit about why testimonials are so effective. And I know that everyone is aware of why reviews and testimonials work so well because we're all using them in our everyday life pretty regularly. But I think that in terms of being motivated to actually request patient reviews on a regular basis, which is what is needed to really build up your review numbers, I think it helps to dig in a little bit into the background and shall we say, the psychology of reviews so that we really understand why we're doing what we're doing. So I really wanted to call this social proof actually works. Get more reviews so you can get more patients, okay? Because social proof is incredibly powerful, especially in the digital world where we are buying things without seeing them and without knowing people. Okay, so we're relying really heavily on the people of the internet to give us their buying advice. And these are total strangers whose advice we actually take very seriously. So, what is social proof? If you're not familiar with this concept, social proof is whenever people look at what others are doing or have done to kind of ensure that we're also doing something appropriate or making a good financial decision. Think about, a long, long time ago when we were, let's start. Hi there, my name is Michelle Grasick, and I'm an acupuncturist and the host of the Acupuncture Marketing School podcast. And today we'll be talking about how to get more reviews so that you can get more patients. And before we dive in, I'd like to take a moment to thank the American Acupuncture Council for the opportunity to be here with you today. And let's jump into the slides. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about why reviews are so effective from the standpoint of the psychology of social proof. I know that we all really understand why reviews are effective, right? Because we are using reviews ourselves in our everyday life constantly. I bet it's pretty rare for you to buy something without first Googling it to see if you can find any reviews about it. It depends on what it is. But by and large, we are all aware of the ways that we really rely on reviews for making purchasing decisions. And social proof is this fascinating concept because when we are reading reviews, they're from total strangers, right? If we're buying something or signing up for a service, kind of sight unseen, right? Like we've never seen the product in person. We don't get to try it on before we purchase it like we would in a store. We don't know the person whose service we're buying. And so we're relying really heavily on information and advice from the people of the internet to help us make these decisions. And that is rooted in this psychology concept of social proof, which is this phenomena where if we are making a decision, especially if we're uncertain about a decision, we look to the experience or the activity of other people to confirm that what we're choosing is a good choice, that it's a sound financial choice, that it is going to be a safe choice. If you think about way back in the day, let's say we are cave people, and you notice in a group that people are looking up at the sky all of a sudden. What is your immediate visceral reaction? You look up at the sky. Why are we doing that? Because this is a form of social proof, right? This is built into us as social animals. We are looking to see what is everyone looking at in case it is dangerous. And maybe I shouldn't say it's a form of social proof, but that's what social proof is rooted in. This really ingrained need as humans as social animals to check with what everybody else is doing in order to stay safe. And of course, now when we're talking about safety, we're really talking about making good financial decisions, not making like a big financial mistake and buying a product online or signing up for a service that really turns out to be a dud. Okay. And I think it's important to talk about this kind of thing because when we're doing marketing, I find with my students that the more we understand the background and the psychology behind what we're being asked to do, the more likely we are to feel motivated to actually do the strategy and do it consistently. At least I know that when I know why I'm being asked to do something, I'm much more likely to do it well, and to do it consistently. Okay, so that's why I like to cover this concept of social proof that reviews are rooted in, because they are an enormous decision-making factor for whether people choose us and our practice or choose someone else. And we just cannot underestimate that, especially because, as I said, it is simply ingrained in us as humans to double check what others are doing for our safety, right? To make good decisions. Okay, we really can't escape that as humans. Very difficult. So we have to capitalize on that. We might as well use that natural inclination to our advantage. And collecting reviews in a systematic way is one of the best ways that we can use social proof to our advantage to build our business and convince people to choose us instead of the acupuncturist down the road. Okay. So, and again, this is obvious, right? Potential patients are more likely to trust us and choose us if they can read about other people's positive experiences with us. Even if those people are strangers, it doesn't matter. A couple other examples of social proof, just in case you're not familiar with this concept, although you probably are. Testimonials and reviews, of course, are at the top of this list, but any public endorsements or community awards that you've received. Of course, word of mouth and personal recommendations are a type of social proof. Sharing case studies or success stories, these are clearly very similar to testimonials. On social media, the number of people who are following you or the amount of engagement that you're getting, the number of likes that you get on your post, all of that is different types of social proof. User-generated content on social media, or even user-generated content on your Google business profile, where, for example, someone leaves you a review and they also leave a photo with their review. Okay, that's user-generated content. That is a very powerful form of social proof because they're sort of taking this extra step and making extra effort to share something else, on top of just their written review. Or let's say that someone visits your office and they take a picture and then they put it on their Instagram story and they tag you. That's user-generated content, and that really builds trust in a big way. And remember that something that we are trying to do in marketing always is to build up enough trust with the people in our community who are very likely strangers. They don't know us, we don't know them. We're trying to build up enough trust that they feel safe making an appointment, making a financial investment, sharing their personal health information, having sharp objects put in them. Okay, so a lot of what we're doing is about building trust, and that is especially true with social proof. It builds trust rapidly. Okay, you could also think of social proof as aggregated numbers, things like, 10,000 total patients treated, if you've been in business for 10 years or something like that, or trusted by XYZ community members. And that's not really a metric that a lot of acupuncturists use, but it is one that you will see used in a lot of different types of marketing in different industries. Okay, so there's many examples here. And I really just want you to think of reviews as a tool in your toolkit for helping build trust and credibility. And I mentioned this already, but you know how powerful these are because you probably always use read reviews before you decide to buy something. Or if you were going to go to a new massage therapist or PT, it's almost a guarantee that you're going to look them up online and look for reviews before you make an appointment. It's no surprise. However, so the The surprise here is that a lot of people, a lot of acupuncturists, assume that if they do a good job and their patients are happy, that eventually patients will leave a review for them. And I have been teaching marketing in our industry for 11 years. And that just is not the case. By and large, most people are not going to leave a review without being asked, even if they are really happy with the service. It just is not something people think about. They're not thinking about us in their business, right? They're thinking about how much better they feel, and then they go about their life. They're only going to think about us and our business if we ask them to. Okay, so you must ask if you really want to grow your reviews so that you become the obvious choice when someone is Googling acupuncture near me and you really want to stand out. You have to ask people consistently for reviews. Okay, and once you ask, most people are actually very supportive. They're very happy to leave you a review. It's just that we cannot ask them to do our job for us. We cannot expect them to do it without the request. So I think that there's a variety of ways that you can ask for reviews, and they're all likely effective to some degree. What I have seen be most effective in the past 11 years is when you send an individual personal email to the patient asking them for a review, and it comes from you as the provider, as the acupuncturist, and not from, for example, your receptionist or your office manager or, another acupuncturist in your practice. Like maybe their job is marketing, and they're sending out these review requests on behalf of the other acupuncturists in the practice. It is so much more effective when you, as the patient's provider, make the request. Okay. And this doesn't mean that you can't use a testimonial. It doesn't have to be a super personalized email, but you just want to ask them, will you leave a review for me? Okay. Because they have a relationship with you, and that just makes them much more likely to actually do the thing and give you a review. And then the second thing that makes a request incredibly effective, and I would never leave this out, is to include a direct link to the section of your Google Business profile where it's on the page where they can leave a review, right? So if you click around on your Google Business profile, you can click reviews and then you can click leave a review, and then you can click on the URL, the web page for that, and copy and paste. You can also, if you're signed into your Google Business profile account as the business owner, you can click on Get More Reviews, and it will offer you a short code link that goes directly to that page where it has the 5 stars, and all they have to do is click the number of stars and leave the review. So why am I harping on this so much? Because a lot of people will ask a patient either verbally or over email and say, would you be willing to leave me a review? And the patient says yes. And then they're just letting the patient figure it out. It is so unlikely that people are going to remember to look up your Google Business profile, because they literally have to Google you and find your profile and then click around and realize like, oh, this is how I leave a review. In the digital world, we need to give people as many shortcuts as we can. We cannot expect them to look these things up themselves. They are just going to get lost on the internet. And it just get distracted, really. I'm not saying that people aren't smart and they can't figure it out. It's just like, if you want this to get done, you need to give them the link, the direct link to your review page on your Google Business profile. Okay, it's very important to include that. So here's the strategy that I recommend to my marketing clients and my marketing students. So in your EHR, like actually inside your patient scheduling system, block off time every 4 to 6 weeks, set aside an hour, where you are going to look back at the happy patients from the past 4 to 6 weeks so that you can select, who am I going to send one of these email requests to? And I encourage you to put this in your patient calendar and give it the same amount of importance that you would for a patient, right? Don't bump this so that you can fill it with a patient. Maintain it with the same level of importance as you would for a person who's coming to your office. Because this is the number one thing that I find happens to people is they put a marketing activity on their calendar and then someone says, "Oh, can I have Mondays at 2 o'clock?" And they immediately bump the marketing activity and they say, I'll do that another time. And they never put it back on their calendar. Okay, so long story short, put it on your calendar, give it the same importance and permanence as a patient appointment, and then look back over the past, we'll say 6, even 8 weeks, and ask yourself, who are the newer-ish patients that I've had who've now seen me 4 to 8 times, who are pretty consistently happy with their results. And you're going to know, right? You always know when someone is having a great experience. So look for people who you think would give you a 5-star review, naturally, and then email them, and you can use a template. So here's roughly the template that I recommend. Hi, Jane. I meant to ask you at your last appointment, but I forgot. Would you mind leaving a review for me on the Ageless Acupuncture Google Business page on my Google Business profile? These reviews are really helpful. They help new people find me and trust acupuncture. If you're comfortable leaving a review, here is the link directly to the review page. And I like to offer people an out because not everyone is comfortable making these statements online. So that's exactly what I tell people to say. So the next part of the email can simply say, if you're not comfortable with it, no worries at all. I understand not everyone is comfortable making public statements online. No pressure. And then, thank you so much. And then your name. And obviously you'd want to massage it a little bit. I think I was kind of repetitive in my word usage there, but you get the idea, right? You're helping them understand how helpful this is to you and your business and how it's going to help future patients find and trust you. You give them the link and then you give them an out in case they're not comfortable with it. So a lot of people will email you back and say, yes, I'd be thrilled to give you a review. And then they won't do it. They just forget. Okay. So I recommend giving them like 2 weeks and then following up and saying, there's 2 ways to do this. One is if they didn't respond, you could just send them another message and say, hey, I don't know if you got my previous email about leaving a review. That email is below, or you can repeat yourself. And then if they said yes, but they haven't done it, you could just reach out and say, I just wanted to check in and see if you're still interested in leaving me a review. You mentioned that you might be interested. Here's the link. Okay, so you're not bothering them if you follow up. Now, if they don't do it after you've emailed them twice, for me personally in my practice, I tend to leave them alone in case their non-answer is a way of saying that they're not comfortable doing it. But that's the strategy that I recommend for my students. And I think it's perfectly fine if you are just getting started in this process of building up your reviews to go way back in the history of your practice. You can even go a couple years back and think about the patients who are like your star patients. They really stood out for you. Even if they're not actively seeing you anymore, it is totally fine. Especially if you had a really great rapport, you had a relationship with them. It's fine to message them and explain what you're doing. Say, I'm trying to build up my reviews to help more people trust me and to try acupuncture. And, if you're interested, etc., you can leave a review. Here's the link. Okay. So, because really what you want to do here is make as many requests as you can from people who were really enthusiastic. And if you have to go back in the history of your practice to do that, that's okay. Because this is sort of a numbers game, right? If you ask 10 people, 4 or 5 will probably actually leave the review. So the more people you can ask, the faster your numbers will build. Obviously, right? But think of it as a numbers game where a certain amount of people are just not going to respond, and that's okay. The more you ask, the better you'll do. And I really have seen this work so many times that if you simply start asking people regularly to leave you reviews, you're very quickly going to outpace all of the other acupuncturists near you who are doing nothing. Okay. They are waiting for their patients to do their job for them and to just think of me and my business and leave me a review. It just is so unlikely. It's just very uncommon. Okay. If you want to approach this as a marketing strategy, you have to do the asking, right? You have to bring that young energy and be the first person to take an action and make a request. And as I said so many times now, patients are very happy to leave you a review. In general, they just have to be asked. So if you are doing this, let's say every 6 weeks, you are reviewing the new patients that you've had over that time frame, and you're sending out, 3 to 5 requests, you are going to consistently grow your numbers. And again, you're going to quickly outpace the people who are doing nothing. Okay, so a few other ideas for how to use reviews once you've got them. I recommend copying and pasting reviews onto different pages of your website because there are a lot of great keywords that your patients are using in their reviews that other people might be searching for. Things like knee pain, neck pain, etc. Okay, so incorporating reviews on your website can be great for your SEO. You could add a different testimonial at the bottom of each email newsletter that you send. You could just say something like feedback from a happy patient, copy and paste. If you are creating your reviews if you are creating brochures for your practice, I would recommend putting a couple reviews on there. And you can also say, if you hit a significant number of reviews, you can put on your website, on your brochure, even in your social media bio, you can say over 50 5-star reviews or whatever it is. Okay, that's a form of social proof, right? That accumulation of positive feedback from the people of the internet. Okay, so just some extra ideas for how to really maximize on the reviews that you get once you've put in the effort to ask for them. So again, just this whole presentation is just a quick reminder to take a look back at your recent happy patients, and I encourage you to pick 10 of them, send your review request, include that direct link, and follow up with them at least one time and just see what happens. Okay. So, of course, if you have questions, please feel free to send me an email, michelle@michellegrasick.com. You can check out my website for free resources, free PDAs, marketing checklists, etc. And before I sign off today, I'd like to thank the American Acupuncture Council one more time for the opportunity to be here with you and to talk about these really important concepts for growing your practice.